Wonderful. So thank you all for being here. This is One Art's February 2026 reading. And today, our featured readers are Kim Stafford, Kari Gunter-Seymour, JD Isip. JD, am I saying your name right? Is it Isip or Isip?
Isip, like Isip
Isip.
juice.
Okay. I'll get it right in future. JD Isip, Todd Davis, and Grant Clouser. So again, Kim Stafford, Kari Gunter-Seymour, JD Isip, Todd Davis, Grant Clouser, who will be reading in alphabetical order because that's what I've decided. So here we are. So first up, yeah, why don't we? I was going to say things, but let's get to it since we have five readers. So first up, we have Grant Clouser. Grant's latest book is Temporary Shelters from Cornerstone Press, which I'll note, and I'm sure Grant will reinforce, that he has had a very positive experience publishing with. Grant is also the author of five previous books, including Muddy Dragon on the Road to Heaven and Reckless Constellations. His poems have appeared in APR, Greensboro, Kenyon Review, Southern Review, the Keystone Anthology, which I was delighted to also appear in, and I believe we have Marjorie Maddox with us. Thank you. Also, we have, sorry, I lost my place there. Um, and elsewhere, other anthologies. Uh, Grant's books and poems have won numerous awards, including the 2023 Verse Daily Poem Prize. I love Verse Daily, and I highly encourage folks to look at the archives. I know JP Dancing Bear has been having some health issues, and I hope he gets better because I just hope he does, but also because Verse Daily is just a great service and just wonderful curation. Grant is an editor for a national media company, and I don't know if we're allowed to talk about which one. And he teaches poetry, I believe, still at Rosemont College in Pennsylvania. And I will drop a link in the chat to Grant's website with information and where you can buy his book. Grant, thank you for being here and for getting us started.
Hi, Mark. Thank you again for letting me participate, and I am really thrilled with the company I'm in. Um, because we got a lot of people, I'll get started. I thought I'd start off with just a couple of stories, well, story poems, narrative, let's say. And this one, I've recently gotten back into collecting vinyl records again. So that got me thinking about my first record player. So this is old ode to my first record player. At 13, my parents gave in, eager to get my music out of the family room and relieve them of endless hours of Kiss Alive 2. The sleeve unfolded to show Gene Simmons' bloody tongue, Paul Stanley's crotch guitar. But with this gift came an ABBA album from my Midwestern grandfather, who swore if I was going to listen to modern music, then at least it better be Swedish. No protest could convince him that disco wasn't metal, that When I Kissed the Teacher and Calling Dr. Love did not go together. And it was my poor brother's fate, who I shared a room with, that he be surrounded by Molly Hatchet, Nazareth, and Black Sabbath. My record stack grew with each monthly collection from my paper route. The mall's Mecca record store beckoned like a gambling hall, and I filled up on 45s and double lives. My stereo, a cheap plastic Technique centered between D&D figurines and a pile of dog-eared Rolling Stone mags. I wore its diamond needle down to coal and grooves into the spinning plastic like a lion who's paced its cage for years and never gets out. So what am I trying to say here? That the sound of suburban youth is a power chord, that a volume knob and teenage angst share a common ancestor with primal screams. Who doesn't have the same old story? Their dusty stack of heartbreakers or the Clash, whatever turntable or tape deck carried your body through high school because music was the track that followed you into the woods at night, that steered your clunker car when you were high. I remember parking by River Road, Shelley glowing next to me in the stereo's green diode light, and how we learned the shape of each other's teeth, fumbling touch by tongue. And I think Cheap Trick's Surrender played from the Ford's dented speakers while we shed parts of ourselves on the car's vinyl seats. It doesn't matter now what we play it on. Old songs stay the age we first heard them, and the breath we exhaled singing along still travels on the jet stream, holding airplanes aloft at night. And another newer poem, this summer, we went to visit some friends in the Northeast Kingdom part of Vermont and spent some time swimming at Lake Willoughby. And the part of the lake we went to turns out was a clothing optional beach. So this is nudists at Lake Willoughby. They're mostly old, shamelessly swinging their past primes in the South End shallows, sagging like pines bending toward water over a sun-bleached rocky beach. They picnic and toss frisbees as if something in the world had parted to make a haven for them to wade like toddlers, the lake reflecting their asses back at kayakers rubbernecking from a nearly respectful distance. My wife and I keep our suits on in the cold post-glacial trough, floating in water 80 fathoms deep and clear as Sundays. Devil's Rock staring us down on one side and Mount Horror's crumbling peak turned away on the other. We're ashamed, but not too much. Curious, but not brave enough. But after a summer of pretending things about the world, why not seek out something perfect to soak ourselves in? To be like the lake's landlocked salmon, fat and happy, giving up hope for the sea. Maybe it's right to shed one's shyness while wading in water that traveled from Canada through 3 depressions before gathering here the way the hopeful will, bathing in clarity that seems to erase memory. That's what hope is, a temporary drop of inhibitions in an afternoon showing itself without shame or envy. And now I'll move on to some poems from the book. I have been told I write too much about dogs, which just convinced me to write more about dogs because we can't have enough of them. This is called Blessings of a Dog. She chases a threadbare tennis ball across the kitchen, dives under a chair, slides to catch it mid-roll, then trots back bearing the wet gift in her mouth, and asks with her eyes and paws for me to throw it again. And I do again and again repeat this simple joy until tired, she throws herself onto my lap and gnaws my knuckles. Sometimes I want this forever, the way a perfect fall morning lingers in the scent of walnut trees. All the grief of a summer we carried like water, spilling with each labored step. She's still a pup, has enough play in her for 12 years or so. I know how that goes. You love, they love. Everything goes on like it should until it doesn't. She doesn't know there's something broken in the world that a ball can't fix, like a bearing that makes the machine run smoother, like the smell of wood smoke in the air that reminds us of childhood innocence, even though something in the distance is burning. I have also been told that this book has a plethora of birds in it, but so does the world. So, how can poets avoid that? This is called Talking with Birds. It whistles, I whistle back. Dactyl, dactyl, spondy, followed by a third or fourth bird hidden in the forest miraculous meter. And I am almost sure this choir singing behind my tent is not random. Pole straight hemlocks and red maples hold back the sun, tower like saints of memory. I'm alone among old bark, tattooed with lichens, so at ease with what the world wants of them, they die standing up. As the trunks reach skyward, their lower branches weaken each year and fall off, useless in the dim below the canopy, like the duff plumage of young birds as they learn to fly. Some of those birds are telling me about the uses of wind, how when they catch it right, it can carry them anywhere, maybe across the river gorge, where more birds are turning every hour into music, reaching for the wind, asking it to hold them. Let's see. More birds. People are asking for more birds. I can do that. This is all birds are good. All of them, especially Kari, Canada geese. All birds are kind of good, especially ducks running like toddlers across the lake surface before takeoff. And the way a hen will turn to watch the slowest of her ducklings try to keep up among the pickerel weed. And in the red maples, gray catbirds shriek at every wind wavering limb because they don't want to disappear into the evening. Pigeons, of course, the way they strut like bellhops for breadcrumbs, but when sunlight catches them, iridescent as the bowls of oyster shells. Owls we all know are good, watching the world age like grandparents, or the kind neighbor who smiles when you give her some fresh tomatoes. Let's not forget the buzzard, who pees daily on its own body to cleanse itself of lice after it worships what others leave behind. But let's not stop at birds. Frogs, too, are a magical good, especially tree frogs when they chorus with cicadas in the willows on hot July nights, because both know how hard it is to turn from one thing into another. Also, mice and skunks, the little brown spider who crawled across my book tonight, the earwig in my garage, the steampunk centipede that inch up the basement stairs in winter looking for sugar on the kitchen counter. So much is good I can hardly stand it. Also poems. All poems, no matter how bad, are good because, like ducks or earwigs, they go vulnerable into a world that forgets what good is. Let's call it all good, because anything else is defeat. The small things we step on and break, sounds that seem to haunt the night, ordinary meals, the flat pillows that do their best to cradle our tired heads, the pain we avoid talking about, absence, heartache, what the world teaches us every day, because even that proves there's a heart when some days we're so close to losing it. All right, let's go to something stolen from the headlines. This is to the climate activists who threw soup at Van Gogh's sunflowers. On the one hand, yes, it's destructive. But what can you do when there's so little left to ruin? If we knew the great fires and rising seas were coming, would it make any difference to the river of cars on Highway 80? But of course we did know, and the ships kept unloading goods by the millions, and plastic rafts collided with plastic rafts until they formed a new continent, and forests made way for warehouses until the sun traveled all day without resting on raw earth. And sometimes we complained about the weather, and sometimes the weather complained back with floods. But if anything, humans are good at getting used to bad situations, and the future was always in the future. So why not match ruin for ruin? One bright flower with the wither of another. Let's strip the sunlight off a masterpiece if we're determined to live in the dark anyway. I think that's my time, right, Mark?
I don't think you've really quite gone there. You could
All
do a
right, how
couple
about
more if you want.
I'll leave one more.
Okay, yeah, let's do
It's
one
a
more.
short one anyway. This is an after Christmas poem, and because of all the snow and the light and the ice in our part of the country, I still have not taken down my Christmas lights because I can't reach them. It's called Taking Down the Lights. Every celebration has to end, lest we get too easy with joy, because a length of twinkling bulbs around the house can't change that cold rain turns to ice, and even small lights take energy, draw something out of us until we've had enough. So, foot by foot, I pull the wires off the eaves, drop the strings onto salted sidewalk and frozen grass. Boxwoods freed of their stars, let winter just be winter, not a soft gloss we gaze at for a while, a story we made up from childhood. Each year feeds into the next like small rivers flowing into larger ones. Days of joy, days of not, eddies that swirl for a while, then disappear. You've lost people. I've lost people. We take the lights into our hands, pack them away until the darkness calls them back again when we've almost gotten used to living without them. All right. Thank you all for your time.
That was wonderful, Grant. Thank you. Always a delight. And as I noted in the comments, you just can't escape nature poetry. You're just a nature poet at heart. And an eco poet, right? I think would be fair to say. Um, that was a shout out at the end there almost to one of Grant's other books, The Trouble with Rivers. And aren't they troublesome, indeed? So, our next reader, who also writes quite a bit of nature poetry, and in fact, that's how I fell in love with his work, is Todd Davis. Um, oh, sorry. Before we go to Todd, I do have to say about Grant. I was stuck on this line. So much is good, I can hardly stand it. And then we'll continue. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. That was very important. In fact, so much is good, I can hardly stand it, which is nice to think about in this time of challenges, shall we say. So, our next reader is Todd Davis. Todd Davis is author of 8 full-length collections of poetry, including Ditch Memory, New and Selected Poems, Coffin Honey. Coffin Honey was a great book. Native Species, Winter Kill, In the Kingdom of the Ditch. I think that's the one that really got me first. The least of these, Some Heaven and Ripe. Also a limited edition chapbook, Household of Water, Moon, and Snow. He edited the nonfiction collection Fast Break to Line Break, Poets on the Art of Basketball, which I didn't know, but that's awesome. And co-edited the anthologies A Literary Field Guide to Northern Appalachia, and I believe that Grant was in that anthology. And Making Poems, 40 Poems with Commentary by the Poets. His writing has won the Midwest Book Award, the Gwendolyn Brooks Poetry Prize, a prize which the name of which I was about to butcher, so I won't say, Bloomsburg University Book Prize and the Forward Indies Book of the Year uh, silver and bronze awards. His work has appeared in a whole bunch of name-checkable journals, um, and he is Emeritus Fellow of the Black Earth Institute, which I'm a big fan of, and soon to be Professor Emeritus of Environmental Studies and English at Penn State University. Thank you so much for being here, Todd.
Thank you so much, Mark, and to One Art and to all the poets I'm reading with today. Many whose work I know and love, and some who I'm looking forward to being introduced to today. So everything I'm going to read from today comes from the latest book. It's the New and Selected. The only reason I wanted to show you is the last two books of mine have paintings by the painter George Bergerie. He paints out of Brooklyn, but if you don't know his work, he does really interesting work with other than human or greater than human animals. So, while we were listening to Grant and the bird poems, it made me think, and some of you may already know this poet. He passed away a number of years ago. He was a good friend of David James Duncan, who's a dear friend, but Tom Crawford. And so if you don't know Tom Crawford, a Pacific Northwest poet who spent a good chunk of time in Asia as well, his work, especially his last two books, are focused entirely on birds, and they're some of my favorite books to return to. I've been working on a talk that I'm going to give at a writing festival this spring. And I don't know if you all know an old novel by Wendell Berry. It came out around the turn of the century by the name of Jayber Crow. And at the beginning of the book, as is Wendell's wont to do, he gives a notice to his readers, and essentially he says, for all you folks who call it a text or look for a subtext or try to explain it, he says it's off limits to you. The reason I bring that up is my first poem is called Free Write, and I remember being in grad school in the 80s. And Peter Elbow was very important at that time in rhetorical studies. And I had never, as a student myself, done any free writing. And I'm giving a confession. Free writing doesn't work well for me. Dreaming around in a journal does. But, you know, the teachers that would say, even if you have nothing to write, just say, I have nothing to write. I have nothing to write until you have something to write. It didn't work for me. But it has worked for some students, and so this is a particular student that I remember, a wonderful girl. Her name won't be spoken, but you know, after 39 years of teaching, she is one who stays in my mind. So, Free Write. The teacher asks the class to get out their journals. The girl who sits in the corner looks out the window. Like her mother's eyes, fog droops over the ridges and makes false promises about rain. The girl writes, the sky swirls like a plate of stones. She writes, there's a fox skeleton lodged beneath the bridge no one knows about. She draws a picture of a thrush, scribbles a single word for its song, and covers it. She thinks, what's a word as sour as sheep sorrel's leaf? She whispers, why doesn't my tongue shimmer when it speaks? And I think, right, when we are writing, and I am one of those writers that I speak my poems aloud hundreds of times, those rare moments when it feels like your tongue is shimmering when you speak because something's been given to you in a poem that you maybe don't deserve, you didn't expect, but it's such a gift. This poem is called Before My Mother's Funeral. She died a couple of years ago, just 24 days shy of being 90. And so many of the people I've loved now that I'm in my 60s, are gone. And I think about the wisdom that they take with them, even though I feel their presence. There's so many questions I wish to ask them. So, Before My Mother's Funeral. Dressed in his preaching suit, Raven squawks about what we're given and what we give ourselves over to. The last of the forest churches are being sawn, toppled to make a thing we can sit on or eat from. The trees look back at us and see only emptiness. In turn, we dig holes deep in the dirt's chest, a people of fire burning what will burn. On her deathbed, my mother swore she heard the Lord God bird knocking. The proof's in the body, but the coroner won't open the drawer. I have lived for a long time among bears. We have bears sometimes come right here into the houses that I live among. We have about 600 acres of forest that way. But as the crow flies, I only live a couple of miles from over 41,000 acres of game lands that have no maintained trails in them. Old logging trails from the 19th century, but that's it, right along the Allegheny front. And so in my book, Coffin Honey, I do name that bear Ursus, Ursus americanus being the scientific name for the American black bear. And so Ursus continues to follow me here into the new and selected. And this is about Ursus's mother, and it's called The Bear Inside the Bear. Within the womb of his mother's making, the bear inside the bear wakes and walks the curved space of the world he inhabits. Her veins spread across the dim red sky like beech limbs full of copper leaf flutter. The world outside the world the bear must walk into changes. Ice melts under blood's thrumming. Snow turns to rain. Ursus's mother knows the passage of time is mercy, a prayer of acceptance. She can't help but hope the men and women who destroy the world will be turned into trees, bodies bridged with bark, arms cleft in contrition, chests slashed open like the canopy when a tree is thrown by wind, sun allowed to fall into darkness again. So we're having a true, good, strong winter here, the kind when I moved here about a quarter of a century ago that we used to have all the time. And so since the first day of rifle season for deer, which was the Saturday after Thanksgiving, we essentially have been down in the teens and 20s as the highs, below zero quite a bit of the time at night. And so the last couple of years we've had pretty darn mild winters for around here, darn global warming. But I bring this up because one of the things that I enjoy doing, it may sound morbid, but maybe as an environmentalist, it's not. I like walking the woods after winter to see the winter kill, to witness what lives have been given up to the forest, deer that have been chased down by coyote or deer that have starved because their populations are large, the winters are so difficult. Sometimes a deer that has fallen and broken its leg in a stream, coming across the sort of ghost of their body still floating underwater. And the forest, and we're part of this too, of course, needs our deaths to feed itself. Individuals like those coyotes, macroinvertebrate organisms like caddisflies, their larvae in the stream, above ground later, maggots or carrion beetles. And then after that initial eating, right, the energy, because remember, there's no more or less energy in the universe, it's just constantly being transformed, that energy going back into the earth for plants to grow out of. And to think of another generation of deer eating of the body of an ancestor because that ancestor has gone down into the earth and now those plants are rising up and they're eating there. So long introduction to get to a prayer. It's called April Prayer. And again, where I live, sadly, coyote are demonized as wolves are at different places in the West. Or I could even say up in Wisconsin, far north Wisconsin, or the UP sometimes. Um, Instead of saying we praise the beauty of their prey, I don't think anybody has ever said a white-tailed deer or a mule deer is an ugly creature. They're graceful and beautiful. To see the beauty in a predator as well. So, April prayer. That's often when I find the winter kill. April prayer. Where snow disappeared a month ago, I trace my fingers to wake dirt. In darkness, coyotes dragged the carcass of the doe they'd run down into a tangle of rhododendron. If I'm to pray, I must become the thing I pray to. Flesh rent, fur reformed into tufts of hair like the fans my aunts wave under their chins in church. My lips scoured by uninterrupted light. Not a single tree leafed out, just words in empty air for that deer and those coyotes, for the beauty of the devoured and the ones who devour. And I love the novels of Marilynne Robinson. And so those who have read Marilynne Robinson, you'll recognize the speaker in this poem is a version of one of her characters who struggles mightily with the idea of being a minister. I, in my youth, my teens, thought, oh yeah, I might be a minister, and then realized I could never follow any doctrine or dogma. I would be thrown out as a heretic very, very quickly. So this poem is called Last Baptism. And my father was a veterinarian. My grandparents on both sides were poor Appalachian farmers, but my father was a veterinarian. So I grew up doing a lot of what is done in this poem. Last Baptism. I'll tell a portion of that child, bones of the skull yet to knit, soft skin of delicate legs draped on my arm, the winged flutter when the water splashed, parents smiling nervously as I laid an ear to the child's chest to hear the beating. The same I'd done to every dog I'd owned, to the cat who sleeps in the crook of my legs, and long ago on the family farm, to sheep, to goats, to mules my father plowed with, the donkey my mother bonneted, a raccoon my brother raised from a kit, even a mouse I trapped beneath a box to carry outside for my mother, who killed nothing she didn't eat. And while I'd momentarily stunned the mouse, chasing it with a broom, I heard inside that slight chest a thumping that helped me believe in the quickening, God touching this flesh we find ourselves in. And so I said to that child in the church of my hands, as she gulped air, water having shocked the heart, shocking the congregation too, remember, pick up the bone from your plate, slurp the orange grease from fingers, put an ear to the chest of those you love, laying cheek to breast, because sometimes life can be tender and supple, as giving and forgiving as the pink of a nipple. Probably not what any congregation would want to hear me say in a baptism. And I think I'll end with an older poem. Those were all new poems in the New and Selected. We, as I'm sure you all know, are entering Black History Month. I hate that we only have single months for certain groups, but I am happy to celebrate 365 days of the year. And John Coltrane, I played saxophone in elementary and junior high and high school, and was no good, but boy, did I think John Coltrane was a saint. And I could listen to A Love Supreme all day. And so that comes up in here. And this is called Coltrane Eclogue. And it begins with an epigraph from John Coltrane. You can play a shoestring if you're sincere. Where the beak of a pileated opened a row of holes down the length of a snag, wind blows across each notch, angles of breathing, like Saint Coltrane unfastening pearl and brass, exhalation rushing through the neck of a saxophone, bending into the sound that envelops anyone with ears to hear. I've started to chant a love supreme, although I'm alone more than 4 miles into the crease, trying to pick up the rhythm, how each lungful glides through hemlock needles, kestrel slipping out onto the updraft, with one wing beat shifting the air ever so slightly, and yet another woodpecker drilling the side of a dying tree, a northern flicker that stays just out of sight, laying down a percussive line. I feel foolish for saying this, but it's like being reborn. A syncopation that can call down rain, make the bud of a shad bush unfurl, unwrap the slow, honest tongues of beaver, and stamp a moose's enormous hind quarter like a bass. All the others silenced, fingers of that long dead saint scaling gut strings, before a Blackburnian warbler joins in with its thin, plaintive notes, and a goddamn bluebird, which should seem trivial but is not, breast puffed, raising its head toward a God that surrounds us, who opens our stupid mouths and commands us to play whatever instrument we've got. And I am thankful for all these poets, the instruments they have. So thank you very much.
Wow, Todd, that was really something. So, I had a bit of a loss for words, but I hope and believe that uh, anyone listening can understand why I wanted Grant and Todd to read together. I think there's some clear logic there. I've always felt that even the ones that were less overt, that Todd's poems felt very prayer-like. And I'll just leave it at that. So thank you again, Todd. Our next reader is JD Isip. JD is a Pushcart and Best of the Net nominated writer and professor of English who is originally from Southern California and currently lives and teaches in South Texas. His full-length collections of poetry and creative nonfiction include Pocketing Feathers from City Girl Press 2015, Kissing the Wound and Reluctant Prophets, both from Mood Tide Press, where I should note Eric Morago kindly also published my book, Take Care. He's also currently editing the American Pop Culture Almanac, which I'm excited about, and that's forthcoming for America's 250th anniversary. So that's something positive to think about with America and 250 years, as a lot is going on in this country in these times. And that anthology is coming out from Moontide. JD, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark. And I just want to give a plug for One Art. The curation is fantastic, and I don't run across poets all the time, and they say Mark does such a real good job on One Art, so I really appreciate it. And speaking of curation, this is such a great collection of people. I'm so honored to be able to read with you guys. I really appreciate it. So with all of that out of the way, I love the fact when we do readings that there's conversations that are going to happen, and so I'll just jump in. There's dogs and dead mothers here, so here we go. What is suffering? Seneca tells us happens on a loop. In hours we imagine. We imagine a blood-red sun, a beast rising from the sea, a creature we created to punish us our sins of our past, to punish ourselves on a regular rotation of what we think we deserve. The kids outside climbing the trunk of our tallest tree, triumphant in mounting the lowest of its limbs, smiling in the last pink light shafts of early winter, My hound, sleepy, belly up, her leg kicking a little, dreaming of the chase. What is requires no chase. There are stores of soup in our cupboards, coffee percolating in the kitchen, pictures of lost loved ones in the ages where what I imagined was never losing anyone or anything, their happy eyes knowing then, posing for a portrait, how easy we miss what is. And this one's from my a new collection that I'm working on, and going to visit a friend from high school, and all the kind of things that happen when you have like these old relationships. Um, her mother. Her mother never got over being poor, bought too much, kept it all too long, forgot what she had or how long it had been there. So she'd just buy more, find new places to put it until there were no places. Then it all just became more places, nooks and crevices, hideaway corners for a nouveau Winchester widow with a little Social Security and recycled cans and butter tubs full of pennies. Kenzie offers more wine, pours herself more, drinks, starts to explain, to try to explain where she thinks it went wrong. But for the first time since I arrived, she is out of words. Cody wants to lighten the mood, tells me Easter, her mom offered the kids these Christmas cakes. They were so happy, so her mom was happy. But he looked at the sell-by date. It was years too old. Years. Kenzie smiles at me. I want to tell her, your husband, who I watched grow up in a home held together by mold and will, he never got over being poor either. We are outside by their new pool. Their new home is almost finished. He shows me upstairs, says, hey, she never talks about her mom like that. I want to say, I like her. Or, those are three beautiful guitars, old friend. And I know you don't play that well or that much. And you already mentioned the boat, Cody. And I have watched you climb out of your own chaos. You are adept at shutting doors on crowded rooms. I've envied that. Others are not. Um, sorry. Here is a little bit of a narrative. It's called No Coming Back. Turn around, don't drown. There are signs all over the Houston area saying this. You watch the news, and there is someone in Manhattan or Los Angeles, a pre-recorded skyline behind them saying, why would anyone stay in the path of a hurricane? They've sent the greenest reporter out with a crew. He's knee deep in brown water, his face continually lashed by the downpour. What are they telling you? Does it matter? The signs, they saw the signs coming in, and they even saw a couple of the cars trapped under the underpass. Said a prayer for the poor suckers who didn't turn around. Maybe they missed the signs. The thing is, you see the signs clear enough. The dark sky, the rising tide, coming home late, then not coming home at all, sudden weekend work trips. Soon enough, you stop asking questions. You just go about your day like normal, walk the dog, water the plants, watch the news, laugh at the reporter in the water asking if the folks in New York know about alligators actually getting into the floodwater. They laugh with you. You think about getting eaten by an alligator. There's this made for television movie you watched with your mom who loved a soapy drama. The star, this woeful woman, clearly on her way to a divorce, gets in a boat with her husband, and he proceeds to drop her into a lake filled with alligators. Your mom says, Puta, why the fuck would you get into the boat? Stupid, stupid, and you both laugh. Your mother's marriages were all disasters. People came for the dinner parties, of course, and they offered the requisite single comforting visit after the divorce. On the way home, they discuss all the signs. When is she going to learn? And they laughed. People never cease to amaze you. They assume, for example, that surviving is what any rational person would want to do. It's the kind of thing you believe when you've never really had to survive shit. But when you're a real survivor, when you've lost jobs and babies and husbands and hope, survival loses its shine. The woman survives the alligator attack. She gets 1980s plastic surgery that is a total makeover and comes back rich for some reason and proceeds to have her revenge on the ex and the mistress and everyone else. She has the last laugh. That's what anyone wants, of course, but it doesn't usually work out like that. You climb, you climb out missing a limb or two, worse for wear. At some point, you tire of telling the stories, explaining the scars, carrying what is left to the next shelter. At some point, you're exhausted. You run out into the water. You're hoping for an alligator, for a whole bunch of them, a last laugh. Thank you. Thank you. This one is a friendship breakup poem, and there's a couple of things I have to tell you all about. I'm talking about my childhood, my friendship breaking up, Notre Dame burning down, and the pandemic. So all of that's in here. So this is called Cutting Animals, and here we go. You love the box story, how in second grade I shit myself. The teacher, horrified, found a hose and doused me, all of me. Then had me sit in a large cardboard box outside the classroom, all the poor, fat, filthy of me. We both laughed every time we told it. When the steeple finally gave, a thought, she is too far gone. Notre Dame might come down whole, the flames glowing from within the cathedral, a demon heart pulsing under her Gothic glory, crumbling into ash. You send the picture. We are 20-ish, poor, sure. Paris, our backdrop. We argued. Every friendship has friction. Besides, remember tripping on the steps in front of all the saints and tourists laughing? The exquisite satisfaction of having arrived. We did. We did it. Before barren streets, a Parisian baritone from his balcony accepts the applause of neighbors, enchanted, bored, trapped, trying to remember if song, spontaneous music happened in moments just months ago, the antebellum fading. We are 40-ish, comfortable, not. A pandemic. We haven't talked, not that we could. I moved, maybe on. You separated. Jeff was there with us. You said the pigeons had lice, wanted to see the catacombs. We missed them. It was disappointing, all of it. My third grade teacher gave me A Tale of Two Cities, struck, I think, by my loneliness, a boy cutting animals out of a magazine, talking to no one in particular. I dreamed of France. We went as friends. For our own good, we must cut out every animal. And then I just have two more. Do you think we have time? Is that good? Okay. So this one is Billy Collins is bored with my dead mother after the lanyard. The other day, as I often do, I thought of my dead mother, which is to say, I lacked the luxury not to think of her like the former US poet laureate Billy Collins, who found himself famous by poet standards due, he might tell you, in a dozen of his own poems to his own dead mother, who quit her job to take up reading verse to her darling. My mother worked two jobs, had an undiagnosed breakdown. When then she stopped working altogether, read me Where the Red Fern Grows once, which I never forgot. How the plant grew from love and loss, something you'll find in the L section of the dictionary, where old Billy Goat Collins plucked up lanyard to travel back to his own dead mother, an ancient practice, Kaddish, to word your way to the past in the present. Pray yourself like the esteemed bard of the Bronx back to the lake where he summered on his, or this lesser, browner, gayer, later shadow to the ghetto where I survived, back to mothers long laid to rest, to say we won't forget them, or we'll try as best we can. Except here comes Collins in his silver years to tell the New York Times, quote, when it comes to dead relatives, and I picture him when I met him, he says, quote, I'm out. When two Women read their poems. One would become the new laureate. Collins scribbled out notes for each on how they might improve, unasked. Some people are like that. My mother once jumped on a woman and pounded her face into the ground. I wish Billy could have met her. All right, so this is my dog poem, Grant. Here we go, and it is called "Put It Down." He can barely stand, but he tries. He tries for her. The most heartbreaking canine instinct that the selfless bark at the dark offer of their favorite toy or their life, even if it hurts so much, just to give us some joy or hold off the inevitable loss of them. They would keep breathing if we'd let them. And so often we do keep the dog or the wrongs or the regrets breathing when we know we should be wiser, shouldn't we? We should let go, I tell my sister, talking of daughters, as we walk the pier at Sill Beach, an arrow of pelicans over soar over, sway of the waves below us, our shoulders hot under the sun, heavy under the what mercy demands. I say, tell me about Italy, about Jeff retiring, about all that is ahead of you and all that is left after the dog and the daughters and the days that fly past us, wind, water, and what we will become when we are weightless. Thank you all.
Wow, GD, what an ending there. Brutal. That was a very well executed dog poem. Maybe executed wasn't the word. That was extremely well done. It's sort of like we all have the roadkill poem. But yeah, oof, brutal, emotionally resonant. And thank you for so many unexpected laughs. It's really appreciated, and I really didn't see a lot of those coming, so thank you. Our next reader is Kari Gunter-Seymour. Kari is Poet Laureate of Ohio, although I think Kari might be exiting the position, sadly, at this point. But I know Ohio is very proud of having Kari in this position. Also, the author of 3 award-winning collections of poetry, including Dirt Songs from Eastover Press, which I know is a press that Kari really loves. She's also a winner of several notable awards, the IPPY, the NYC Big Book and Feathered Quill Awards, also executive director of the Women of Appalachia Project and editor of the anthology series Women Speak. Kari's work has been in quite a lot of journals, including Poem a Day, World Literature Today, and the New York Times, and I can drop a link in the chat to Kari's website. Kari, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, Mark, thank you so much. I can hardly breathe or speak right now after hearing just the 3 people who came before me. Oh, it's just so glorious. And I just am feeling so blessed today because we've just had a hell of a January, haven't we? So thank you all so much. And I'm looking forward to hearing Kim read as well. Um, so I have a new collection coming out this fall titled All That Tease Within, as in Tease Within from University Press of Kentucky. And the first poem comes from that collection. And it's February, y'all. So I'm going to start off things there, right? Okay. This is the backside of lonely. Every morning, the same drag of feet across the same worn carpet. Every morning, this stink bug perched beside the kitchen sink, jagged back rising into pointed head. How he's made it this long, I can only guess. I leave drops of water on the counter near the bronze leaf begonia, where I suspect he feasts and sleeps off his slow sulking shenanigans. It's February. Worst month of the year, the ground starved and cracked, I've grown older, and Valentine roses stink of funeral parlor. The screen door won't latch. A broken hinge cries out, bangs same as the twig trapped under an eave, hanging on for dear life, while wind's wet cough puckers its sour mouth, spits words that have no leverage, though its voice follows me everywhere like a bad luck country song. This cloudy day bends every ray of light, teases my senses like a lover. I know the attraction of faraway things, the smell of my teenage skin, the ecstasy of memories. Even on lordliest days they taunt me, murmur beneath my skull. It's hard to trust a good thing these days. Yet every morning I see that slug bug rise up, wait for dribbles. Time, a concept that hasn't quite killed us, each needling the other to live. Hey, thanks so much. Hey, people who don't know me pick up on my twang pretty quick. So I'm Appalachian. I come directly from farm people, not coal people, farm people. My people started out in Virginia, ended up in the Carolinas, into Tennessee, and then Ohio. I'm a third generation Ohioan, but a ninth generation Appalachian. And so I come from farm people, not coal people. There's a bit of a difference. But it's on their backs, all their hard work, paying it forward, that I'm able to sit here today and be a poet. And I'm so grateful. And, so I try to pay it forward as well as best I can. And so I like to write about my people. And so this next book is from Dirt Songs, which is my current collection that Mark mentioned from Eastover Press. Best people in the world to work with. Well, everybody I've worked with has been wonderful. I've been so lucky. Anyway, this is called Inclinations. Here in the holler, we tap our mouths to warm our hands, a rugged edge of teeth exposed between foggy slips of breath. All winter, our joints ache, and our bodies think of leaving in ways only ancestors could understand. Without a trace of irony or blush of shame, we'll pull the pickup over, watch the foothills turn russet at sunset, talk to clouds through February, to the earth come spring, sit front and center to a weave of nest set to hatch its crooners, press hell-bent into the great Y of summer. All that matters is the heat, the harvests, prayers for rain. Little we or the plants can do but endure. When the mulberries cease their fruiting and the maples go kamikaze red, we plow down the cornfields, gardens too, don our flannel, ponder our shrinking frames, bones calcifying, same way a crusted plow rusts itself back to nature. So, moving on with the theme, this always happens when there's a reading. It seems like somehow there's some kind of synergy happening. So, in the past handful of years, I've lost my mother, my only sibling, all my maiden aunts. My daddy died quite some time ago. And I lost 2 granddogs within 6 months. I'll tell you what, that just about tried to kill me, losing my granddogs. So, this is another one from All That Teethes Within from University Press of Kentucky. Look for that in October of 26. It's called Look Into the Sky to Save Me. All the tin roofs red, redder still in colorless February. pitiless and hard-edged. A mocking pass of clouds hoards the light. A sparrowhawk hovers mid-flight, calls out a clangorous kiki, insists I take notice, mark his appearance as a tryst beyond coincidence, react accordingly. When is the last time something shook me from my luxurious fuss of closed eyes, hours spent solemnly resurrecting my silent dead, centering myself with bereavement? The rumble of a low passing plane rattles my vertebrae. I smell the way the air fidgets, its blitz of hiss and fury about to quicken. My feet propelling themselves forward, my hair blown back, skirt flying. The slideshow of our lives is never not playing. We all draw straws. Not everyone who asks receives. Okay, so I can't seem to help myself, y'all. I write what I know, and what I know is rural America. And so right now I'm writing about America from a rural voice, right? So this is very new. A couple of people here today know that, and I know we're not supposed to read our new poems, but I just had to. I get fired up. Oh, say does that spangled banner yet wave? Inside Walmart, make-believe America lines store shelves in red, white, and blue looky-loo long johns and shotgun stocks, beer koozies and racerback bras, alongside swastika posters and supersized Confederate flags. I'm doing my best to ignore it all, but damn, I see what they see. You get my meaning? I've made irrefutable efforts not to be lulled into regime-coerced amnesia or meditate myself blind into a rabbit hole dank with want, where internal dialogue can break a body into factions. The ego left for dead, frayed as old glory on a battlefield. This is what happens to faith. When an earnest person can no longer pretend, the price of devotion can be tallied in wins and losses. Caught up in a thicket of doubt without a flare gun or machete or hope of hacking a pathway to any semblance of civility. I came here in search of a toilet plunger. Find 'em, factory painted in stars and stripes, lined up spit polished like secret state police. God help us. Even our metaphors are behaving like fools. So I'm sorry, I'm fired up. Like I said, I'm fired up. And I'm the thistle among roses today. So I think that gives me the liberty to be a little prickly, right? So here's another protest poem. And this is what this country needs. KNEADS. With practiced hands, which represent what faith I can muster, I knead the dough. Heel of my palm coaxing, fingers cupping, stretching, folding, rolling. Every gesture an act of vulnerability, a steadying grace, a prayer for outcome, wholesome loaves to share at my table, a fine-grained crust, yielding inner crumb. Oh, America, I have accepted your pasty pale excuse of a loaf for way too long in the name of peace and prosperity. Full no longer, I bake black. red, yellow. I bake fat and skinny. I bake Jewish rye and Turkish flatbread, melon pan, conchas, and Serbian soda. I bake like company's coming and bringing persnickety Aunt Frida. I bake like Paul Hollywood is judging and Jesus is preparing his sermon. I bake like there's no tomorrow or a tomorrow after that because I swear on a stack of King James holy rollers, you, America, have got your motor running, but are firing on all the wrong cylinders. And Aunt Frida carries a loaded handgun concealed in her privileged white pocket. Okay. One more vicious, and then I'll settle down. And I wanted to read a poem from One Art today and share one because I'm so grateful to Mark for all he does, not just for me, but just for so many, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And he does this out of love. He's not like he's getting paid, y'all. So even when you make a donation, it's going back into the journal. It's not going in Mark and Luisa's pocket. And we need to remember that, and we need to donate as we can. So I hope y'all will. I mentioned to y'all that I lost my granddogs, and I wanted to read a different poem today, but I can't get through it without crying, so I brought this one instead. It's called Then There Is This. But it's only a dog, she blathers. And I'm fingering a brick, metaphorically, aimed at her vacuous brain. My band-aid of propriety ripped clean off. My storage unit of fuck yous laid bare. My office window frames a stand of shagbark hickories, statues of dark gods lopping off the sky, their mawkish gold robes fading to autumn's wither, promises nothing but bitterness and bite. Maybe my mother was right all along. Maybe I'll never be satisfied until I poke out someone's eye. So I have two more, but I'm not sure I have time for that. I might just do one.
You
Is that
can
right,
do
Mark?
both.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
fine.
Okay. So this is all that teethes within, because ironically, it's right back into some of what others have talked about today, especially a coyote comes up, and Todd talked about the coyote, and coyotes are big in Appalachia, and they're the trickster. The indigenous, of course, have learned to skirt roundabout coyote, and probably we should too, but we have a lot to learn from them. And so this one is also from All That Teethes Within, and it's kind of the anchor poem. The title is All That Teethes. No disrespect intended when I say most of us tend to open ourselves as if already broken. Molars grinding, crumble to the ground holding our privates. Reach deep into our guts for a single shudder of possibility, even knowing expectations never have a final version. Prospects are tricky things. Words, instruments of illusions. In the end, it doesn't matter whether we captured the flag at summer camp. A year's ebb inevitable. The cicadas kicking, dying, picked off at random by cackling sparrows who, unbeknownst, are fattening themselves for coyote. We all toggle between rage and vulnerability. Our mighty miseries veil obscuring fact from phooey. Here's to another year of sprouted fang and banshee wind. All the heartbreak a body can hold. Our battered egos scurrying to harness all that teethes within. And so as not to leave you all totally furious because that really wasn't my intention, but I do love to get myself fired up and all of you as well. It's time to write our postcards afterwards, folks. Send them to your senators and your local officials. They tell us if they get thousands of postcards on their desk, it can make a difference. So I want to believe that. This is also from One Art recently. And it's called Fortune Cookie. And just a kind of a happy poem. Fortune Cookie. Who knows how long that crisp wannabe confection huddled in the side pocket of my car door? Or what karmic labyrinth brought me to this piebald prophecy, my delight at my find, bordering on ridiculous. A gaggle of words shrugged together like a kiss for luck. And damn, if there isn't a QR code hoping to further enhance my fascination. Hope can be a tough sell when so many are suffering in the world. It's easier to notice what's wrong than what's right. Across the street, my neighbor's wife is dying. So too democracy, according to the media. A paper strip of quivering letter forms predicting the future is a hoot, right? A shameless self-indulgence, a distraction from sorrow, a frivolity to share with a friend, a cheeky infatuation of farcical futility. Don't we all need that right now, friends? We need to all go find ourselves a fortune cookie. Thank you all so much. It's been such an honor to be here. Thank you so much. Don't forget to donate to One Art.
You're so sweet, Kari. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for representing 50% at least of our population. um, Apologies for the lack of diversity in that regard. But you know, Kari can really represent, and those are some amazing political poems, powerful stuff. As you can see in the comments, people are pretty mind blown and fired up. So that was good. That was good fired up. We did need that. That was important. It felt really good. So many things. So many things. I can't say enough. But yeah, I always love the way that Kari represents Appalachia and is just an amazing public poet and steward of the arts in the way that I aspire to be. So uh, thank you. You're helping me in my pursuit as I continue to try to get better at what I'm trying to do. So our last reader, who probably needs no introduction, is poetry community royalty, Kim Stafford. Kim Stafford is founding director of the Northwest Writing Institute at Lewis and Clark College, teaches and travels to raise the human spirit, which I saw him do not long ago, in fact, at a Hellbender reading with Nicole Brown. And man, Kim is really impressive at creating the vibe of a space. It's really something to behold. So I recommend being in spaces with Kim, as you'll find out. But also the Hellbender series is really cool. So Kim taught at Lewis and Clark College for 40 years before retiring and becoming professor emeritus in 2020. He's the author of 20 books of poetry and prose, so I'm not going to run through all of them. This includes The Muses Among Us, Eloquent Listening and Other Pleasures of the Writer's Craft, and 100 Tricks Every Boy Can Do, How My Brother Disappeared. He's also written about his father in Early Morning Remembering My Father, William Stafford. And this reminds me, I don't think I have this written down, but the Writing a Poem a Day project, which Kim can talk about. So Kim's most recent poetry collections are As the Sky Begins to Change from Red Hen and A Proclamation for Peace translated for the World from Little Infinities. So he's taught all over the world, including Scotland, Italy, Mexico, and Bhutan. Allegedly the happiest place on earth, but I've heard mixed reviews on that as far as the happiness. And, I think they have a fairly homogenous culture. But anyway, what do I know? In 2018, Kim was named Oregon's ninth poet laureate by Governor Kate Brown. Uh, and that's plenty. Kim, thank you so much for joining us and for being here for a one art reading. It's truly appreciated.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, everyone. I want to start with my little list of lines that I've been writing down as I've listened to the four of you. So this is a little poem we could call Poetry Clear as Sunday. It whistles, I whistle back, traveling through three depressions. Lest we get too easy with joy, we take the light into our hands. Fog makes false promises about rain. She heard the Lord God bird knocking. Help me believe in the quickening. Why doesn't my tongue shimmer when it speaks? I have watched you climb out of your own chaos. Remember tripping before all the saints? How easy we miss what is. In the backside of lonely, a broken hinge cries out. It's hard to trust a good thing these days, the way a crusted plow rusts back. When is the last time something shook you? And I'd like to propose that's a good definition for a poem, something that shook you. That's what we should try to do. I've taught a lot of years, and early on, I tried to help my students polish their poems. But then it became clear we need to make them more feral, raw, strange, odd. So I just have a few things I want to read, but I want to start with some little things. I am helplessly writing short poems in response to the news these days and posting them daily on Instagram. And so this first one started out, I was driving on an errand and I looked up and they were doing some road work. And I know we've all seen this. There were seven guys in hard hats standing around while one guy in the ditch was digging. That just seems to always be the scenario. So this is called Men Standing Around. Driving to the store, I see them, seven guys in hard hats watching the eighth dig in a ditch at their feet. Their reflective vests flashing like feathers of exotic birds. Someone must have told a good one. They all laugh, swivel, and preen, while the guy in the ditch keeps on shoveling. A bit like how the president keeps talking while cronies stand behind watching him dig a mass grave for us all. The fun thing about poetry, you're just writing along innocently and suddenly it happens. Something shakes you. There you go. And this other short one is, I saw in the news that some years ago, the weather people in the Denver area saw this huge something heading across the landscape. It was 70 miles wide. Turned out it was a flock of painted lady butterflies in migration. And so this is called A Swath of Us. Weather radar picked us up flying northwest over Denver in a banner 70 miles wide. We painted lady butterflies, each fluttering, erratic, but all intent on our common destination. Even though not one of us had made this journey before, our migration of 9,000 dangerous miles taking 6 generations as we cross a land not one of us had ever seen, guided only by something in our patriot hearts and the compass of the sun. Metaphors for resilience just keep creeping into my pages. Okay, I'm going to read some poems from this book, As the Sky Begins to Change. And, the title sort of has two ideas. One is global warming, but the other is dawn, when the sky begins to change. And the few poems I'm going to read, I want to talk about the uses of poetry. I've been thinking about, I need a poem to honor my source. And so this is a poem to honor my source. It's called For the Bird Singing Before Dawn. Some people presume to be hopeful without any evidence for hope, to be happy when there is no cause. Let me say now, I'm with them. In deep darkness, on a cold twig in a dangerous world, one first little fluff utters a peep, a warble, a song, and in a little while, behold, first glimmer shows, then a glow filters through misty trees, then the bold sun rises, then everyone starts bustling about. And that first crazy optimist, can we forgive her for thinking dawn by dawn, hey, I made that happen. And oh, life is so fine. Okay, this is a poem to calm myself, a poem to bring me some peace. It's called To My Hand the River Offers Rounded Stones. Fish fit every sleeve of water. Here the cottonwood is making perfect leaves. Wren song flies in all directions, no impediment. Clover nectar welcomes tongues of bees. How can I be stingy here in heaven where our covenant is clear? The river brims with woven rain. Wind is whispering the trees. Um, so there are a lot of birds in my poems too. This one, we have these crows. Portland is like a crow mecca. There are thousands and thousands of crows that roost downtown. You got to watch where you park your car. And then in the morning, they fan out. And so, they come over our house. And there's this crow couple that always comes to our yard. And, it's a big male sort of strutting around, and the female's a little coy. And I got to wondering, how do they find each other? Here are these thousands of crows. How do you find your love? So this is called How the Crow Knows Her Love. He has a certain swagger in the way he dips his beak, a syncopated strutting when he gives a tender shriek. I meet him in the shadows to tickle at his chin, to preen his glossy feathers till he shivers deep within. For I know behind his swagger he's a blooming fool for love. I can make him coo with pleasure as if he were a dove. I can make his vision blur, his eyes roll back and blink, and remind him of this later when I give a fetching wink. He makes me swoon with wonder when he flaps across the sun to bring me fragrant morsels, and I know that he's the one to raise our crowlets, teach them verve and zest, so they can swagger like him by the time they leave the nest. Oh, I can pick him from the flock, be they thousands in the trees. He makes my heart beat faster and go weak in wings and knees. When he glances past his shoulder to give that sassy look, I know I've got his number. I can read him like a rook. But how these humans find each other is an ancient mystery. For swarming in their flocks, they're all look-alikes to me. No inky feet and feathers with rainbow hue to spy the one who has that swagger that can always catch my eye. How they find their partners is a thing nobody knows. It's a pleasure that's so easy when you live among the crows. Um, okay, another rhyming poem. I find myself, pleased by rhyming. And this poem, the uses of this poem is simply to say their names. Simply to say their names. It's called So Still. They took Eric for a cigarette. They took George for a $20 bill. Brianna is gone 'cause they didn't like her door. Who will be the next to lie so still? They took Ahmed for running. They took Laquan because he walked away. They took Trayvon 'cause he was looking round. Wrong time, wrong place is all they say. They took Emmett for a whistle. They took Medgar for a word. They took Martin 'cause they didn't like his dream. Again they said it's time that dream's deferred. So still, so still. Did they kill you for a thrill? So still in your casket, so silent and so chill. They took away your laughter, let us keep our tears. They took you in your troubles, in your tender years. They took you for your color, that's how it appears. And when will we decide true justice to fulfill before we let another lie so still? Um, so, I wake up in the morning, I take a walk, words gather in my mind, and I try before, let's do the list, email, the news, errands, to-do list, on and on. Before all that, to just be open to what wants to be said, what wants to be said. So one day I was thinking about Trump. I was thinking about him auditioning to be in a Shakespeare play, and what the bard's response might have been. So this is called Shakespeare Gives No Callbacks to an Aging Actor. Thou hath vice and villainy rich and plenty. Thou canst strut and fret as a crow at carrion or a mewling child denied. I could see thee as a man of walls and towers, haughty and reserve, a terror to maids and suckling babes. But thy speech is twittering, thy pride barren, thy heart hungers vainly for that villainous pallor I could fashion to fright groundlings groveling for thy scraps of anguish, and also chill those dressed in lace and scarlet fine. Alas, thy posturings are hollow, thy ravings crowded thick with shallow words. Thou art no Macbeth or Lear, couldst not rise to a singing rage, nor go mad and wander pelted by a storm of sorrows. For all thy promise thou couldst not drive my quill, spattering in fevered haste to pin thee living to the page. But be not downcast. Have this life. I'll leave thee with this consolation small. In some speech, perhaps, rolling from the tongue of a swaggerer, thou shalt be a tale told swiftly of one who had his brittle time and power, who would be king, but then was found to be a man. Savor thy dignity in this, and act thy part. A lot of these are, I read the news and then I write a poem to cheer myself up. To cheer myself up. I've told my wife on my grave, you can inscribe, he was easily pleased by a few words. So maybe I'll read two more poems. One is, I wrote this to recover from the Dobbs decision of the Supreme Court, because I started thinking about the Supremes. I mean, this is the cool thing about writing. Just a word can be a portal to a whole game changer. So the Supremes, they used to be so great. That string of hits in the 50s, 60s, 70s, off the charts. Their work set a precedent, others followed. When they got unanimous, their harmonies changed us. You felt a hum everywhere that came from them. A new kind of freedom flowed over the land. That one about kids in school, that one about woman power. Holy moly, when they held court, they were on a roll. You didn't need anyone's judgment call. They were tops. But I guess it couldn't last. They got some new blood, started doing covers by splinter groups, lost their mojo. Some died, some went solo. You couldn't really call them the Supremes anymore. They stopped setting the beat. No more anthems, just echoes. Uh, one more poem, if I can find it here. Let's see. Okay, this is to honor bookstores. Honor a place of pilgrimage. My wife and I were in Edinburgh, and she got COVID. She was in the hotel, and she sent me out looking for books. One day I went to 7 bookstores, and the last one was this delightful, it was called Type Wronger Books, and it was filled with typewriters. And you had to go down steps. It was underground. It was really a mythic place. So, bookstore. From the street, the steps lead down to paradise. At the door, a bell rings when readers enter. Tall walls form canyons of secret stories. A ladder on wheels stands ready for climbing. On the shelves between books, typewriters each hold a page with a paragraph or stanza from a book nearby. On the wall, framed, a letter from a writer proclaims love for the store. Behind the counter, the owner reading a book looks up in welcome. In the back corner, under a window lit green by trees outside, intent at a tiny desk, a child is writing, her pencil scratching the silence.
Wow, that was beautiful, Kim, as expected.
Thank you.
I knew you wouldn't disappoint. Um, you mentioned in the one poem that you wrote it to calm yourself, and I was
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, Kim needs something to calm himself? Seems to
Oh,
be
you'd
the
be
most,
surprised.
yeah?
Yeah, I get pretty worked up. I mean, you read the news and you start to boil. You got to simmer. Bring it back to a simmer with a poem.
Oh, and here I was thinking you were just on the edge of enlightenment, so.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. An incredible reading, and thank you to all of our readers today. I hope that everyone will hang around after, and maybe we'll have at least about half an hour for Q&A and One Arts community time, which is sort of open discussion.